Welcome to America's Voices. My name is Daniela Bloom. I'm recognized as America's Relationship Authority, now broadening my interest to go underneath the headlines because the same reasons our relationships are falling apart today are why our country is falling apart. And today we have a very special guest, Michelle Lyons, who's going to talk to us about why she's decided to throw in her name and run for Congress in Long Beach, California. We are thrilled to have her. Welcome, Michelle Lyons.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. We met a few weeks ago at the Larry Elder event, and we instantly connected. And I am thrilled to have you here to tell us your story, to hear firsthand why you decided to run, why you think you were the best candidate for this district, and what you have that many people don't.
Yes, well, I am born for this. You know, I grew up in Los Angeles and I've been living in Long Beach now for over 6 years. And I come from a mixed race home as well. So I am very much aware of the polarization that's going on in this country. And I think if anybody can really bring it together, it's me. Second of all is that I worked in politics for a year back in 2008 to 2009, and I've also lived in 3 other countries, so I know the real realities of socialism that I think a lot of people are living kind of a little bit in a fantasy as far as what socialism really looks like. Yeah. In order for us to really get America back on track, we have to focus on gratitude, really understanding what makes America great. Yeah. And then if we understand what makes America great and the reason why so many people come to this country for so many reasons, we can literally focus on that. But we're not focused on that. What makes America great are our entrepreneurs and our small businesses, which are shrinking by the day because of inflation. Which makes America great is our family and our family values, where if you've got a group of people that come together and support each other, here in America and only in America can you ride that all the way to the top, you know? So I even think that sometimes the message gets lost with the Kardashians, you know, because that's really a story about 5 young women that come together and support each other. You know, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Kardashians, but the point of the message is that those 5 women keep supporting each other, and you've already got 3 billionaires, and you'll have
They're
a 4 or 5 in a minute.
Entrepreneurs, they have amazing work ethic.
And that is what makes America great,
Yes.
you know, coming together and having that solidarity. And I think we've got to start focusing more on our entrepreneurs. I think we need to focus more on building back our families, you know, which are breaking apart at the seams. And I think that we need to focus on really creating some kind of national identity, which I think that we've lost. I mean, even the word nationalism now has become toxic. You know, if we're not proud to be American, then what are we proud for?
In some circles, even the American flag has become a symbol of terrorism.
Yeah. So this is a big issue because throughout history, this has always been the demise of a country. And I don't think people really realize kind of how dangerous even it is to have a lack of national identity in a country. Yes. So we really need to focus on uniting the people. And I'm a person that comes from all walks of life. You know, I'm from South Central LA. So I relate to everyone, but I've also lived abroad. I speak 4 languages and I own a business. So I get everybody, and I understand why everybody is not seeing everybody for who they are. Everybody's walking around their own reality. So fortunately enough for me, I've had multiple realities, you know, so I can relate to I can relate to people who come from, you know, middle class, lower class, and upper class. And I think that we just really need a voice for the people that can really bring everybody together.
I agree with every single thing you're saying. It makes sense. Having strong entrepreneurship gives us opportunity to be competitive. It gives jobs. It makes our entire economy strong, which is what we want. The homeless crisis is an issue all over California. It affects every single Californian. Everything you're saying makes sense. Why do you think this will be a hard to campaign in California in such a blue state?
I don't think it's going to be as hard for me. I think the hardest thing are going to be the attacks that are going to come after me. But people, I'm a people person. That's why I know that I was born for this moment, okay? I have always loved people, you know, and it's something where every time I've had a job in my life, I've always been promoted to manager because I was just always so good at with people. I don't think I've ever had a job where I was on for less than a few months where I wasn't executive director within a year, you know? So and it's because I genuinely love people. I'm someone that can talk to the homeless guy on my way to work, and I can talk to another CEO, you know? So I think the people are going to love me. I think the media, obviously, they love to attack people. They love to attack conservatives. And I'm also a black woman conservative. But I'm even good for that because when I entered into, I have a modeling school. When I entered into the modeling business in 2015, 2016, I got attacks from everywhere. So,
like what specifically?
Well, specifically because I created a modeling school that was like no other, you know, and we became very successful. I was the only modeling school to literally develop talent and take models, amateur models around the world. And I saw that things were changing in the modeling industry. I saw that you didn't have to be 5'9" anymore because of social media. So I allowed for petite girls and plus size women and even children to get on stages that they had never been on. And the industry came after me like you wouldn't believe, you know? But I wrestled that and I was fine with it. And, you know, I'm someone who grew up a straight A student. I graduated high school at 16 years old. So I've had haters my whole life, you know? So,
because you keep going against the grain.
Because I go against the grain.
Yes. With a smile on your face.
Exactly. And not too many people have the guts and to really even go against the grain, you know, and not too many people have the guts to take all of the criticism and things like that. So I'm someone, because my life, I've always been criticized, I'm perfect for it because we do need change. And it's time that we start looking outside of the box. We realize that the answer to all of our problems, a lot of it has to do with accountability and us trying to bring back our families and a good support system. And I feel like big government doesn't want that. Big government knows if you have less of a support system, you have more room for big government, you know? And at the end of the day, it feels a lot about control.
And disempowerment.
And disempowerment. And, you know, I have been, since the beginning of time, I've been all about women empowerment. You know, I've spent 11 years with my modeling school, and I used to be the executive director of Barbizon, really empowering women to know that a smart, beautiful woman can do anything, you know? So I love creating entrepreneurs. I love creating people who feel like they can do anything. And I would be hypocritical in this moment to see that this state needs leadership for me not to try to take a leadership role, you know? So I really want to be the voice for conservatives. There are so many conservative black people in California, and yet we've never even had a representative that is conservative and black, you know? So it's time that we have someone that speaks for all the barbershops and all the beauty shops and things of that nature. It's time that we have someone who speaks for the families. And it's time that we get these homeless people off the streets, because with inflation and taxation, it only adds to more homelessness, you know? It's all a cycle, and I think that more people need to wake up to where, you know, most people can't even afford a home right now. You can go to the poorest part of California right now, and homes are over $1 million, you know? So it's starting to be where if you tell someone you're from California, they either assume you're rich or they just think you're completely naive. Like, they do not know that you can have a beautiful home.
Well, we had the first ever the census drop. That's why your own district is becoming redistricted. Because people are leaving California. Businesses are leaving California, and that affects all of us because the top earning businesses of our state pay the majority of our taxes. So if they up and leave with 100 employees, 200 employees, that affects all of us.
And everything, and I think people don't understand that the conservative movement right now is fighting for the middle class, because the weight of all of this comes on the middle class. Who pays for all of this? It's going to be the middle class. What's going to happen with more taxation, inflation, it's going to split the middle class, where half the middle class is going to become poor, and the other half, they'll either sustain or maybe they'll get motivated and become more rich. But half of the middle class is going down, you know, because look at the cost of everything that's going up, you know. People are going, more people are going to start leaving the state. So I'm here to fight, you know.
Yeah.
So I've been a fighter all of my life.
Yeah.
And my mother owns a small business as well. I would say at least half of my friends are business owners and entrepreneurs. I guess birds of a feather, you know, flock together. So someone has to fight for small businesses. You know, what happened during this pandemic, the amount of small businesses that went under is asinine. I mean, I think
it's 1/3. 1/3 just never returned.
A third, over 20,000 businesses
20,000.
completely went under.
Wow.
Yes. And that's not even to mention the amount of people that have literally said to me, if we have another pandemic, another lockdown, which could happen, you know, they wouldn't make it. So if we were to go on and get another lockdown, let's say when flu season hits again in November.
Main reasons Newsom was being recalled.
Most people didn't see that, though.
Yeah.
Most people didn't understand that we may go under a third lockdown.
Right.
And so if that happens, then what happens to the people who barely survive by the skin of their teeth?
Yeah.
You know, and then you pass out more PPP money, you pass out
gonna
more
say.
EDD money, and then inflation just begins to rocket. So our kids are going to be paying for this. So I tell everybody, I said, I've lived in Italy. Are you ready for a $10 cup of coffee? Because if you're not ready for a $10 coffee, that's what you're voting for. You know, are you ready?
We're already seeing it in the market and the gasoline prices. We are already seeing it now. The prices of chicken, the prices of fruits and vegetables. It's really crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
but again, I think identity politics has people not understanding. I mean, that's why we've got to start to have these real conversations and really open people's eyes to the long run game. And I think the people that are going to be affected the most are the people that they claim to care about the most.
You know, it's so interesting to me. I feel, as a former liberal who voted for Obama twice, I had the audacity of hope. I love this message, right? There is no red states, there's no blue states, it's the United States. And then he fooled you. We're going to talk about identity politics for the next 8 years and divide the country and then blame Trump. But, you know, I think that is, you know, what I see the most is there's such a misunderstanding of what conservative values really are, which is opportunity and values. And it's been hijacked as, you know, if you say you're a Republican, if you're black, you must be an Uncle Tom. And, you know, as a Jew and pro-Israel advocate, in my own religion and faith, we all across the spectrum, we are so different politically today. And again, I think it's because the media has done a number on what real free-thinking conservative values are. We want everyone to succeed. We want the middle class to succeed. We want everyone to have opportunities to be the best they can be because we are stronger as a country when everyone is succeeding. It just seems like that narrative has been hijacked.
Well, not only that, I think it also goes to the education system, you know, because when I tell people I went to Berkeley and when I tell people I lived in Cambridge trying to go to Harvard Law School and I even audited classes and lived up there for a minute, people are shocked that I'm conservative, you know, and again, I think it's because...
What are some of the comments you get, if you don't mind me asking? I didn't know you were conservative because...
Or people were like, you went to Berkeley and you're conservative. Most people are shocked that I went to UC Berkeley and I was conservative.
And you
Funny
still survived as a conservative.
I was super conservative when I went to Berkeley. I mean, I was in debates every day. I can't wait to start debating with Congress. But I didn't become liberal until Obama. So, you know, I didn't start leaning blue until Obama because I too had the audacity of hope, you know. But the irony, because God works in mysterious ways, I went to 3 of Obama's balls. And the last one I stayed at the longest, and I partied with Colin Powell all night. So Colin and I were on the dance floor, me, him, and his wife, you know, we were on the dance floor, you know, partying it up. And my dad's a Republican, and most of my family's Republican. So I called my dad the next night, and I was like, Dad, you'll never, my dad didn't vote for Obama. You know, my dad is probably one of the few black men who was like, you know, didn't have the audacity of hope. But the main thing is that, you know, I called my dad, I was like, I was with Colin Powell dancing all night, you know, just like the irony of everything. And I think God had been trying to get me into politics for a long time. I just wasn't paying attention. And I think during the pandemic, it was like God got a chance to sit down and talk to me for 15 months. It was like, no, this is why I made you, Michelle, because my stepmother, who is Jewish, as I was raised with, her uncle, her brother is a diplomat. So he was my uncle growing up, and he was the reason why I went to Berkeley. I went to Berkeley because he went to Berkeley, and he talked about UC Berkeley and talked very highly about it. And he was a diplomat. My best friend in high school was also a diplomat. So her dad was a diplomat. And so I actually thought I was going to be a diplomat. So that's why I majored in international.
You're so diplomatic.
Yeah, so that's why I majored in international studies. And I lived abroad 3 times because I was like, oh, I'm going to be a diplomat when I grow up.
Yeah.
And then my mother, my biological mother who didn't raise me, she's actually a business owner. And I just kind of had that knack for business when I graduated. It was like I graduated, I had the degree. My first job was at a school, and I was just enrolling people left and right. And then I was like, wow, I'm really good with people, you know? And then I opened up my first business when I was 26 after the economy crashed. And then just ever since then, I just realized that I had more of an entrepreneurial spirit, but the goal of me as a child was to become a diplomat. So this is really a full circle moment for me.
If there was ever a time that we needed more diplomacy in our government, it is certainly now. I mean, the partisanship, the polarization, the voice of the level-headed moderate has disappeared.
It has. It has.
And, you know, just by saying you're a Republican, you're a Christian, you're a conservative, to someone else who hasn't been, you know, aware of what it truly means, it's like they glaze over.
Oh, it's so sad.
Here in California. I mean, is there any kind of story you want to share with that? Like,
well, what I do, because I realize when you tell people that you're a Republican or you tell people you're conservative, they automatically guard up if they're super left, not liberal, but just super. The leftists now are just on their own trajectory,
right,
you know.
Right.
So I mean, they think the fall of American ideology is the rise of leftist ideologies, but no, the fall of American ideologies is like the rise of China. Okay, it's like no, we're going in the wrong direction, you guys.
I know.
But the main thing is that what I do when I speak to leftists to really kind of bring them into my reality is I meet them at their level. So I don't lead with Republican, I don't lead with conservative, I lead with concern, because everyone's got concerns.
Because you care, concern. Yes.
What are you concerned about? What are your issues? And more of the people in my district have issues with how the pandemic was handled. A lot of businesses that were out are still struggling, you know, and a lot of these are Democrats, you know, but when you start meeting them at their level with their concerns, they'll be open. And then, you know, at the end, you know, I mentioned that I'm a conservative and things like that, but I try to really hear their issues so that they can see that we have more in common than the media wants us to believe.
Yes.
And same thing with homelessness. Every single person has an issue with homelessness.
Yes.
And these new drugs, like I said, I grew up in the 80s when everyone was on crack and things of that nature, but I guess it's meth that's out now. And it's so serious to where these people need, the homeless look like they need drugs to get off drugs, you know? I mean, it's just, it's a whole nother... It's really sad if you really see what's going on with the homelessness. In Long Beach, we have a huge epidemic of it, and it's just, if you see just how out of the mind some people are, if you see the schizophrenia, I see the schizophrenia like I never saw this in the 80s like that, not like this, you know. So this is schizophrenia on a whole nother level. This is sometimes people are stripping down naked in the middle of the streets and walking. I mean, you're just like, well, what?
And they have more rights than the taxpayer.
They have more rights than the taxpayer.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. So the laws have to change. I've had mothers literally, because I volunteered for a homeless shelter, and a mother came to me and she's like, my son is diagnosed schizophrenic and he will not get help. She's like, I paid to put him in multiple shelters and he leaves, or multiple rehabilitation places, and he leaves because he can, you know. And she's like, it shouldn't be right that he can just leave when he needs help. And she said, and it definitely shouldn't be right where he can just park his body in his encampment outside of someone's home. So she literally drives by every day. He's at this bus stop in front of somebody's home, And she just drives by every day, you know? And I said, well, why don't you take him into your home? She's like, because he tried to kill me. And I was like, wait, your son tried to kill you, and he's now in society. And I think some people don't understand that schizophrenia has made some homeless people are dangerous. Not all of them, but some of them are, you know? And I think that we need to show love and we need to show compassion. I think Larry Elder hit it right on the head. I think we need to get these churches and all these religious sectors more involved. I think that this is something, because I think it's spiritual, I think we've got to start figuring out a way to give grants to a lot of these nonprofits, churches, things like that want to do rehabilitation programs, because these people, the homeless people, and I hate to say these people, but the homeless people need to be rehabilitated. This isn't, you know, crack cocaine, people need a little Jesus and, you know, a meal and, you know, a couple days sobriety. No. This is serious. The level of psychedelic issues that are going on with a lot of these homeless people. A lot of them need medication. A lot of them need deep therapy. I mean, there's a lot going on, and we really need to get the churches to step up. And I think if the government can start writing checks to not only churches, to synagogues, to I think even Buddhist temples and things like that, that can also have some nurses and some doctors come in and give some of the medication. That's how we're going to clear this up.
I think it is a balance. I think, you know, I don't remember if it was the mayor or the governor in Texas who, it was Democratic, and he had no tolerance for homeless encampments in public places and got them off the streets. And I think it's a balance between safety and support.
Exactly.
Because there's a reason why California has the highest homeless population, I think, in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, I think in the world.
I don't know if it's the world, but it's definitely this country.
America.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason being is because they are given a lot of allowances. They can really poop wherever they want, live wherever they want. They have their dwellings protected. And, you know, even if you take it down to a family situation with children need boundaries. Yes. You know, if children can't just spread their toys all over the house, and just because they can, and some of them have different personalities than others, right? Some of them are very high strung, and so and some of them, you know, are acting out for real reasons, you know. But there's a range of mental health to true tragic stories of job loss.
Yes.
But at the same time, the tax-paying citizen who's trying to go to work, who's trying to have a safe environment for their kids in residential areas, has a right to feel protected.
Exactly.
And this is, you know, I mean, we're in Northridge. We're in a nice upper to middle class suburb in the valley, and there's about 20 tents in front of Ralph's, all different ranges of people there. And, you know, that's where I take my kids to go to the market. Like, what is it going to take for us to say, wow, this is just everywhere?
Yes.
This is just everywhere. You know, there is a saying, peace through strength, war through weakness. And I think so much of the strength has been lost under the guise of inclusivity and rights, but we're all losing when there's no control.
Well, one person's rights should, especially a minority's rights, one person's rights shouldn't affect everyone else's rights, because everybody, you lose your rights when you have someone parked outside of your home, and you can't even park your car outside of your home on a cleaning day or something like that. On a Friday, an example, out of my house, on Friday, you can't even park your car, you'll get towed because of cleaning. But someone can park their body there on a Friday without any kind of repercussions. And I spoke to a guy that was homeless for 20 years. He even talked about how sometimes people think that being homeless is bad, and he loved being homeless.
That's what I was saying. Some people love that, choose that lifestyle.
He said it was just such a carefree lifestyle, and he said especially in California, where, you know, you can go get a meal and things like that. For him, it was an escape from reality, you know, and he just didn't like the pressures of reality. But I say this to say, I also think the homelessness is a reflection of America's loss of family values, because one thing I hardly ever see, like, immigrants on the streets. And I say that to say, if you look at Asian cultures and you look at even the Latino cultures and things like that have such a strong family dynamic, America is losing that, and it's losing it more and more.
Even the African culture, the Nigerian culture.
African.
Yeah.
I was engaged to an African guy once, and he said you would never see anyone who was Liberian, but he's like, you'll never see a Liberian on the streets homeless. He's like, because someone will always take them in. And so I was thinking, I was like, well, you must not have mental health people that are. He's like, no, are you kidding me? There's tons of crazy drugs and everything. Main thing is that we would just never allow it to happen. You know, there was someone that will always take you in. He's like, in my family, people who are on drugs, people who are crazy. I have an aunt who's super Christian. She puts him in her back house, you know, and she just prays for him, you know. So it's like he has people in his family that are on bad times, but he's got a sense of family dynamic. We don't have that in America. America is missing that family culture.
I totally
and it's
agree.
in everything.
Yeah.
Just look at even like movies and look at their names. Every time something says
There's
America,
no more family movies. It's all Pixar.
it's all.
Yeah.
And everything has a bad message. I was even looking at Family Feud, and it was all about sex. I was like, well, isn't family supposed to mean the
Family
kids and the daughter and everybody else can watch it? And I was like,
well, there's not even Family Feud.
I don't even mind it being about sex, but we got to change the channel, change the name, right?
Yeah.
So the main thing is that the breakdown of the family, and that's what's causing all the poverty. That's what's causing all a lot of the mental health issues, because if you don't have a strong family, you know, you can be lost, you know, if you don't have, and a lot of people don't have that anymore. I see it every day. I have a modeling school. People come to me every day. Parents don't care about them. Daddy doesn't care about them. Mom doesn't care about them. Cousins don't care about them. And that's a huge issue in America, and no one lets us talk about it. And I'll tell you how I started to really become conservative, when I really started to drink the conservative Kool-Aid, is watching CPAC. CPAC, because I've watched the DNC. I've even gone to DNC. But when I started watching CPAC and how they really talked about these real issues in America, I knew the media was brainwashing people, because these are really conversations. They were talking about real issues within also the Black community, real issues within different sectors, the Asian community, this and that, and real issues in American community. So they were talking about the breakdown of the families, and they were talking about how do we bring families back together? How do we make people love thy neighbor again when people don't even love their aunt or uncle, or you know what I'm saying? So and what's really great about a lot of the immigrants, where we can learn from them, is the fact that they have a sense of family. Like I'll never forget, even on my block growing up, there was a Mexican family who had like a lot of family members that lived with them. And in like 10 years, they owned 10 homes on the block, you know, and everyone was able to piece their stuff together and really kind of over the next 10 years build. And in America, how many people can say that? You know, how many people can say, yeah, I can go stay with my aunt or uncle for 5 or 6 years while I get my life together? Most people can't say that, you know, and that's really the breakdown of the American family. And I feel for that. That's what we've got to really work on. And if we can really work on bringing back our family, or bringing back a society where people literally care and look after for each other, then we're able to compete in this global world. Because right now, it's no longer about, we can no longer afford for Americans to be against each other. Right now, we're in a global world, whether we like it or not, because of the internet. So we've got to have a sense of America-verse, everyone, you know? So we've got to have a sense of, we are trying to be the best we can be. And we can do that because of the internet. The internet has allowed a more of a level playing field in so many ways, especially for entrepreneurs, you know? So we've got to get Americans out of this socialist mindset, because we're going to miss out on innovation. You know, we're going to miss out, because if you go to socialist countries, people don't even think, they don't dream. You know, everything is kind of robotic. You know, if you try going to a socialist country saying you want to open your own business, or try going to a socialist country saying you want to be a movie star, you know, people look at you like you're dreaming or you're crazy or something, you know, because they don't have that level of innovation. You know, I feel like we are really truly one nation under God. So we have these thoughts, and with the right support system, we manifest it and we make it happen. You know, that's really what we've got to really start focusing on.
I agree with you, and I think starting back in childhood, when you don't have great role models around you, but the human spirit is longing to connect.
Yes.
So you're going to try to find your community anywhere you can, even if it's not something that entirely serves you. That's why we see a lot of gang activity with communities that don't have a lot of fathers in the home, because people want to belong. And what happens is, though, they belong, but they never find their power. And they grow up still with this displaced pain and anger, and they're just looking to pass it to something else. And I just think, tell me what you think about this, so much of our country today has a victim mentality of what they expect their country, their government to do for them. Because they probably were disappointed with their own family structure.
Yes.
You know, they had moms and dads who were not ideal. And that anger can carry over. And, you know, as a therapist, you know, I work with many different people, singles, married, adult. I work with adolescents. I work with young adults. You know, everyone has baggage. Everyone has a story. It doesn't matter what race. It doesn't matter what your class level is. It doesn't matter what your background is. I've heard things you wouldn't believe out of people you would never expect.
Exactly.
Right? At the end of the day, you get to a point with them where, like, okay, fine, let's just go with it. It is all your dad's fault, or it is all your mom's fault that you are this and that. Now what? And I think the now what part is what's missing in so much conversation, because the personal responsibility, we are a lot more powerful. The great thing about America is we are the land of opportunity, and what America stands for is being able to be your full potential, being free to be any religion you want, being free to express yourself, freedom of speech, and putting that responsibility back into us. Like, what do I want to do with my life right now? What do I want to do? And that message has been lost.
Yes.
You know, there's a reason why our Constitution starts with "we the people."
Yes.
So I think that really is a message that resonates with me and resonates with many conservatives, or any people who would never have described themselves as patriots today.
Yes.
Stand for these values again, because we do recognize we are in such a phenomenal country. And like you just said, so many people have never moved out of California, yet they've become experts on socialism and how it's this great thing.
Yes.
And, you know, if you have parents who come from true communist countries, if you've lived in other countries, your eyes are open. And so many people, they'd rather talk about systemic racism and lack, you know, and this illusion of voter rights and suppression, you know, and people like, you know, white liberal people, that's their top issue. And it's really hard to, you know, talk about real things with them when that is the hills they want to die on, because that's part of their new community.
Yes.
Right?
I think America in general, we've got to really, and I've been, you know, everything I'm saying I've done myself, you know, so I can relate. I think we have a gratitude issue. You know, it's really grateful. I think that even, DeSantis. DeSantis started, he put 1 minute of silence into the schooling. And I said, I wish he would have put 1 minute of gratitude, you know, because even waking up in the morning is something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And everyone, I went to private schools half of my life, so I can tell you, even some of the wealthiest people lack gratitude. You know, gratitude is something that we really need to work on. And where I really realized how ungrateful I was is when I lived in Brazil. So if you don't know about Brazil, Brazil is 90% black, you know?
No, I didn't know that.
And yeah, it's 90% black, and everyone black is poor, you know? My maid and I were around the same age when I lived in Brazil. I stayed with a host family, and I had a maid. And my maid thought I was a maid at first, you know? And so when I told her I wasn't a maid, I was studying abroad in my best Portuguese, she was shocked, you know? She had never seen someone that looked like her that wasn't a maid or a prostitute, you know? She had just never seen it, you know? And how I was treated all the time was people assuming that I was a maid or a prostitute because I look Brazilian and I speak Portuguese. But the moment someone told them that I was American, I was treated differently. It was like I was treated even better than the white Brazilians, because being American there was a super status symbol, or being from Estados Unidos, which means you're United States. They're American too, they're South American. But the main thing is that, and that's when I became really grateful, because if I would have been born in Brazil, the reality would be no matter what, hardly, that if I was born poor, I would die poor. You know, us just having the ability to go from one class to another is extremely rare around the world. And I don't think people really even understand that, you know, how extremely rare that is. You know, in Brazil, high school education is all privatized. So mostly everyone is done with school by the time they're 8 years, by the time they're in 8th grade, you know. And it's very much all about, you know, classism on a whole nother level, you know. My Brazilian maid and I, we would speak about America, and I would tell her about my friends who are lawyers or doctors, and she would just be like, oh my God, she would think it didn't even sound like it was true that there was a bunch of people that looked like her that were lawyers and doctors. And I told her about Ladera Heights, which is where most of my family lived at the time. I'm like, yeah, there's even whole communities where it's all black people with money.
And they were blown away.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Like, what? No, no, you know, it sounded like a lie. Like, you know, like what? You know, so that's when I was like, wow, I'm very happy to be American. You know, my life's not perfect, far from it, you know, but just having the ability to be broke one day and to come up with an idea and have not a bunch of regulations and to try to figure it out and get people on board and things like that, you know, it's just something we take for granted, because in most countries you can't even do it. Most countries they don't even have credit. So if you want to buy a home, you better have $1 million in the bank. You know, if you want to even lease, if you're in Nigeria and you want to get an apartment and you want to lease it and it's a 12-month lease, you better have 12 months in your bank account ready to give them cash. You cannot do a lease even without having full payment. Full payment is everything everywhere in the world. And even us having the ability to have credit is something that we take for granted, you know? So if we can really understand the privilege, I think that's what we are having a problem with in America, is really even understanding the privilege of having a credit system, of having a financing, or even having a home. And anywhere in the world, that this beautiful home that you live in, you could be super rich in Brazil, super rich in Europe, and this wouldn't even exist. Everyone lives in condos. You know, it's like if you're the really rich, live in really nice condos on the water. You know, they're nice condos, but I'd rather have a small house than a condo any day of the week. You know, but the main thing is that is just what people do, because the infrastructures of the cities are all condominiums. You know, they're metropolitan cities like New York, and that's where Europe is pretty much all metropolitan. Brazil is pretty much all metropolitan, where people live. So even your multimillionaires live in condos. They don't have a home with a backyard and things like that. So when we talk about America, we talk about that house with a picket fence and the 2-car garages, because even that in itself is very unique to America. You know, and that's why California hurts me so much, because that's shrinking. You know, you can make $100,000 a year in California and still not be able to afford to buy a house. You know, so that's why I just was like, okay, I can't just sit here and watch this anymore.
So what I'm hearing you say, not only are you educated and self-made, but is it true if you run and win, you will be the first Black conservative woman ever?
The first Black conservative woman out of California, and out of the country. I think we've only had one other congresswoman out of Utah. And she just lost this last election.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very unique, you know. But I think now is the perfect time. I think we're in the middle of shifting politically. I think there's a political realignment going on. And I think that you have people, thanks to your Candace Owens and your Kimberly Classics, and you know Winston Sears, and you've got Kathy Burnett. I mean, you've got some Black conservative women across this country right now that are really pounding it. And Kathy Burnett, I like to use her because she outraised everyone in the last quarter. I mean, she's a Black woman out of Philadelphia. That's no joke, you know.
So she got so much support.
The fact that she's getting that support lets you know right now that
from white people. I'm shocking.
Yes, because it's we've got to stop playing the identity politics. You know, this is about being American. It's about American values. It's about realizing that we live in a country where, you know, the same people that complain about it who are successful would never be successful in another country, you know? And when I was like, well, Bernie Sanders wouldn't even be rich in another country, and now he's got 3 homes.
His 3 homes in Vermont.
Yes, because he wouldn't even, if he lived in the country that he's trying to make our country into, he would not have the lifestyle that he has, you know? So it just lets you know the power of even selling information in America. Like that in itself is a business, you know? Yeah. So, and that's only a business in America, you know, but Tony Robbins exists in another country. I mean, all these people who sell information. So I really want people to understand that when I look at America, one of my favorite movies is The Wizard of Oz, you know? And the moral of that story was, in order to be successful, you need a home, you need a brain, you need a heart, and you need courage. Yeah. And a lot of people have the first 3, but not a lot of people even have courage, you know? And that's one thing that I find even with some of my educated friends, because some of them are kind of like, you know, they're kind of like a little bit like, Michelle, what are you doing next? You know, like, you know, they kind of turn their nose up at me because I think I just have a lot of courage, you know? And I've noticed that a lot of people even get so caught up in just, you know, routine or the stability, you know. In America, you can do that. America, you have stakes high, you take high risks, you know. That's why I think a lot of people even shun their faces at some wealthy people, but they're not even understanding that some of those wealthy people took some major risk in life, you know?
And it wasn't smooth sailing. It wasn't. They were fired, they got bankrupt, and they kept going.
And would do things that person who played it safe and is living their safe, comfortable life would never have the goal or the gall to do that. So why are we doing that? And there are people that are not playing it safe at all, and we need to get those people homes, hearts, and brains, and so forth, so we can pull them up, you know. But that's really the recipe, because this is the Emerald City, you know. But we've got to get people to where they've got those 4 things, because without those 4 things, it's hard, you know. And that's what makes it hard. And I honestly think the most important thing is the home. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and you know, in talking to you, Michelle, it's really apparent to me that what's going to come out in your campaign is that you're going to remind a lot of people just how good we have it here, and that there is opportunity for you, but it's up to you to take advantage. And that piece of home and gratitude goes along with that. And we do have a great country. It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
But you see all the beauty in it, you see all the opportunity, and you're there to amplify what has been missing. And there are really key components missing. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. Is there one last takeaway that you would like to share with our audience today about why you are running and what you're hoping for in the next year?
Well, I'm excited. I'm having my launch party on September 30th in Long Beach at the Renaissance Hotel. So we're super excited. We're going to be promoting it like crazy for the next week. And I'm going to start hitting the grounds October 1st, you know. So for me, I just hope that I give people a sense of resilience, because I have been through it. You know, me being a business owner for 6 years, like I said, I went through a tumultuous year in 2019. The pandemic hit. So for me, this is about, the name of my party is called Roaring Back.
Yes.
And
oh, I love it. Michelle Lyons, Roaring Back.
Because it's also my own personal story. I'm roaring back from, you know, a tumultuous year in 2019, and then the pandemic, you know, and I want people to see vicariously through me. If she can't get knocked down and she gets back up, then I can too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, people get caught. I think some people stay down because they think they can't get back up. But no, so many things are psychological. You know, if you stay positive, you surround yourself with good people,
you keep going.
Anything is possible.
That's right.
You know, and I always remind women the power of being a woman. You know, it's like women who support women can ride it to the top. You know, so I really want to have a strong connection with a lot of women. You know, get a lot of women to start really, you know, kind of coming together and really empowering each other.
Yes.
And I really think that that's the message I want to send to America, that we are strong, we're resilient, and I know I'm coming back. So I'm coming back, my business is coming back, and I'm coming to Congress, and I want everybody to come back with me. And I want all the business owners to know, all the third that went out of business, I want them to see me and say, oh, she can do it, I need to go and I need to open back up. You know, that's what I'm really hoping.
Okay, so Michelle Lyons, she is roaring back October 1st. Look out for her, support her. If you're lucky enough to be in her district, please support her. It is Long Beach, but they are still redistricting where they're going, but it's in Long Beach. Any other questions? Can they find more on your website? Or?
Yes, MichelleLyonsForCongress.com.
You heard it here first, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of America's Voices. If you too would like to be a part of the conversation, go to DanielaBloom.com/America's Voices. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless you.